Welcome into Season 4, Episode 2 of the Big Time Hoops Starting 5 podcast presented by Town & Country Federal Credit Union. I'm your host, Taylor Mannix, and I've got another fantastic episode lined up for you guys today, beginning with the 5 college topics I have plenty to get to, including the Big Time Town & Country Game of the Week between USM and UFM first, University of Maine Farmington, that is. We'll also talk UFM women after Jessica Dow's dominant two-way week. Grace Jaffray will be a part of the starting 5 this week, along with some UMaine updates, and we'll also preview the game of the week, the big-time Town and Country game of the week between Bates and Maine Maritime. Again, I'm your host, Taylor Mannix. The interview today that will come after the Starting 5 podcast is going to be Michael Hoffer. I talked with him for about 20 minutes about Class A, Class B, the girls and boys side, and some of the headlines from the first couple weeks, really the first 10 days of the high school hoop season. But first, let's hit the starting 5 and get to covering the amazing college scene that doesn't get enough credit here in the state, beginning with our game of the week here on Big Time Hoops, the Big Time Town and Country Game of the Week, a classic matchup between USM and UMaine Farmington. The 103rd meeting all-time between these two programs, to be exact, and, well, it lived up to the hype. Southern Maine comes away with an 85-82 win, improving to 5-5, 500, a coveted mark here in college basketball. But the story of the night was Thomas Whalen. The senior poured in a season-high 34 points, going 14 for 21 from the floor, and added 5 rebounds and 5 assists. He was aggressive early, aggressive late, and calm when the game got tight at the free throw line in the final seconds. USM actually controlled much of the night, opening up a 17-point second-half lead, but Farmington kept coming. Zach McLaughlin was sensational for the Beavers. He had 28 points, 19 of them in the second half, consistently attacking and hitting tough shots to bring the Beavers back within striking distance. And even in the loss, Jason Reynolds once again showed why he's one of the best bigs, two-way bigs in the country. He posted 19 points and 12 rebounds, giving him yet another double-double, and anchored everything Farmington did defensively. The Huskies made just enough plays, though, late. Evan Sterling hit a timely bucket, especially late. Whalen sealed it at the line, and USM held on in a game that swung back and forward until the final horn. Big shout-out to Trophy Mode. You can head to the Big Time Hoops Instagram page to see the highlights from that one. He was on site getting some incredible shots of what was an incredible game. And staying with UMF, Jason Reynolds and Zach McLaughlin were honored this week. Even with that loss, it was a big week for the Beavers, especially for Jason Reynolds. He earned his 4th straight NAC Defensive Player of the Week award, and honestly, it's getting to the point where it's hard to overstate how dominant he's been. Over the past week, Jason Reynolds averaged 18.7 points per game and 11.3 rebounds, recorded 3 more double-doubles, and now sits with 10 on the season, tied for the national lead. He currently leads the nation in total rebounds, ranks 5th nationally in rebounds per game, and shoots it efficiently from both the floor and from 3. That combination, production, consistency, and impact is incredibly rare. So shout out to the Winslow, Maine native, Jason Reynolds, who's finding his footing big time here in NAC play, and really just in out-of-conference play too. He's been fantastic. Meanwhile, we mentioned his name, Zach McLaughlin, the Hamden, Maine native, has also earned recognition, named the MMBCWA Co-Player of the Week. He averaged 23.5 points per game, including that 28-point performance at USM, and followed it up with big games against UMPI and Husson. So while UMF didn't get the result on Wednesday night in the Big Time Town and Country Game of the Week, they're still very much trending upward, and those two are the engine driving this car. Big shout out as well to USM, both teams' incredible performance. You can find those highlights on the Big Time Hoops Instagram, brought to you by our boy Trophy Mode. Let's get into the second topic here on the starting 5, and Jessica Dow had a dominant two-way week, flipping it to the women's side, again staying with the Beavers, because Jessica Dow did have one of the most complete weeks you'll see in the conference this season. Dow was named the NAC Player of the Week and Defensive Player of the Week, and the numbers back that up. She helped lead the UMF Beavers to a 2-1 week, including NAC wins over UMPI and Husson, and that Husson win was massive. It was UMF's first victory over Husson since 2007, according to the Beavers website. In that game, Dow went for 21 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 steals, while also serving as the primary defender on who else but Sage Evans, the conference leading scorer who we talked about right here on the starting 5 last week. Dow held Evans to 5 of 17 shooting and forced her into 4 turnovers. That's elite two-way impact from Jessica Dow. For the week, Dow averaged nearly 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 steals per game while setting the tone defensively. And this might sound cliche, but when your best player is also your toughest defender, that's how programs turn corners. And UMF are doing exactly that on the women and men's side. Let's now jump to our third topic, where we're heading down to Johnson & Wales University as their CNE Player of the Week is a Maine native. Staying on the women's side, we have to talk about Grace Jaffray because what she's doing right now is ridiculous with Johnson & Wales. The sophomore from Blue Hill, Maine has been named Conference of New England Player of the Week for not just the first, second, or third time, but fourth already this season. This one, though, might have been the most impressive yet. She dropped 41 points in a 25-point win over Salem State, knocking down 6 3-pointers and getting to the line 18 times, filling up the stat sheet across the board. She followed that up with 33 more points earlier today, Tuesday, December 16th, in Puerto Rico against Alfred. Again, 33 points in Puerto Rico today against Alfred. And right now, Jaffray is second in the nation in scoring at 27.1 points per game and second nationally in free throws made. Teams at this point know Grace is the focal point, but it hasn't mattered. And she's not just hot right now, she's dominant. At this pace, she's putting herself in a National Player of the Year conversations, not just Conference of New England honors. Let's head up to the University of Maine in Orono, though, and give an update on the Black Bears. On the men's side, the Black Bears finally got into the win column with a 69-59 victory over Boston University last week, and they did it with defense and balance. TJ Beal led the way with 17 points, and Maine held BU to just 36% shooting. In fact, under 36% shooting, forcing 15 turnovers. They jumped out early, weathered a second-half run, and showed composure late. It was a much-needed win for a team that's had a frustrating start. And, of course, unfortunately for them, they follow up the win with a loss to Kinesis, which was rough, no doubt. But getting that first win really did matter for them, and we'll see when conference play comes just if this team can turn it around and be the team we thought they could be. Now it's about building on, and hopefully for the men, they can build on that win and forget about the Canisius loss quickly. Meanwhile, on the women's side, Maine picked up a huge road win at Quinnipiac, rallying from 11-point deficit to win 63-55 over the weekend. Adriana Smith is outstanding. Shocker, 18 points, 20 rebounds, her 7th double-double of the season, and she's now 7th all-time in rebounds at Maine. The Black Bears outscored Quinnipiac 40-25 in the second half, hit timely threes, and closed the game on an 8-0 run. That's a gritty, confidence-building win for the UMaine women and Amy Vachon, and one that could spark momentum heading into the rest of non-conference play. Maine gets Harvard this Sunday for the women. And now let's jump to the fifth and final topic as we wrap up by looking ahead to this week's big-time town and country game of the week. And it's a really intriguing one. The unbeaten Bates Bobcats, sitting at 8-0, hosting Maine Maritime Academy, who come in at 4-5. Bates has been rock solid to start the season. They're defending at a very high level, and they've won close games, and even on nights when shots aren't falling, they find ways to grind out wins. They're deep, disciplined, and playing with a lot of confidence right now, especially at home. On the other side, Maine Maritime brings in a group that's better than its record might suggest. A big reason why? Freshman guard Drew Hamilton. The first year out of McKinney, Texas, has made an immediate impact. Over the past week, Hamilton averaged 10.5 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists with 2.5 steals per game, showing he can affect the game on both ends. He was especially impressive in MMA's win over Umpy. Hamilton finished with 12 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, and 2 steals. He plays with confidence for a freshman. He's aggressive defensively, and he's not afraid of the moment, which is exactly what you want from a young guard heading into a tough road environment like Bates. This matchup feels like a classic contrast. Bates' experience and defensive identity versus MMA's youthful energy and fearlessness. If Hamilton can set the tone early and the Mariners can hang around, this could be a lot more competitive than people expect. And that's why it's our big-time town and country game of the week. Undefeated team at home, scrappy challenger on the road, and a freshman guard who just won the NAC Freshman Player of the Week with a little more to prove. That's going to wrap up the starting 5. Let's get in, though, to the high school sports talk. Michael Hoffer of Hoffer's High School Sports will join me next. Stay tuned. Our conversation about Class A South girls and Class A South boys and a sprinkle of B coming up next. Welcome back into the Starting Five podcast, presented by Town and Country Federal Credit Union, and of course brought to you by Big Time Hoops. I'm Taylor Mannix, and as promised, joining us on episode 2 here this week is the legend himself, Michael Hoffer of Hoffer's High School Sports, doing his own thing now. Michael, thanks so much for giving me some time on your busy schedule today to talk some high school hoops.
Yeah, I'm thrilled and honored to be here, Taylor. It's nice to talk to you face to face. It's always over the phone. I think this is the first time maybe the second time we've ever been in the same studio together.
I know, it's fun. You're right. It is always different. It brings a little bit better of an element too. I always find talking in person makes for better conversation. So I'm really happy you're able to get in the studio today with me here and chop it up. And I know, the last week I had Trophy Mode on. He swung by. He'd been at the South Portland, been all over at the local games. We talked a lot about the men's side to start, so we'll get into the men's, but the boys' side. But I want to start with you with the women's. And I know you covered a couple games here over the past week, Cheverus, Freeport. So I think it's a good place to start. We'll go with Class A first. What's, to you, Michael, maybe the teams to beat, the players to watch here in our region in Class A South that fans need to know about?
Well, let me start. How great is it that we have all these teams together now? I was never a fan of the big class, the class double A, and just for the simple reason that everyone made the tournament. You had 1-17, 0-18 teams, going to get slaughtered in the first round. Not at a neutral venue, but on the home court of the higher seed. So that whole thing was balky forever. It's nice to see all the teams are now back. You've got a great Class A South in both boys and girls. It's going to be a fun season. It's been a great season already, and we're only like 10 days in.
Right.
I've seen multiple good games, and it seems like every Tuesday and Friday I look at the schedule and I'm like, God, I wish I could be at this one. I wish I could be at this one. There's 3, 4, 5 games every night that look terrific. But so far on the girls' side, you got to start with Cheverus, right? And I don't think we necessarily thought that coming in. I think we thought that they were going to be pretty good. Obviously, they were in the state game last year. They won the state title the year before. You have Kylie Lamson coming back, one of the very best players in the state. But South Portland deservingly kind of got the preseason headlines after winning that first championship last year in 39 years and returning just about everyone except for Emma Travis. South Portland takes a 16-point lead early in the game at Cheverus in the season opener. What a great opener that was, by the way. Whoever made the schedule. And then Cheverus roars back and makes an incredible statement by winning that game. The other night they took care of Sanford, another really good team. So, it seems like they're always near or at the top, and it looks like everyone's going to be chasing Cheverus again this season.
And you mentioned Sanford. Well, what stood out to you, at least about them, in your first impressions? I know last year they had been a little bit top heavy with some of the seniors that they graduated. Yeah. I mean, was there any turnover you saw there? Any new faces maybe from the Sanford Spartans?
I just was really impressed. They get up and down the floor very nicely, and they came in and they weren't phased at all by playing at Cheverus, which some teams are. They really went total. I had to leave after halftime, and then I went back after the fact and watched the video and put a story together. But first half they were neck and neck. It was 30-26, and really the difference in that game was Kristen King, the Cheverus freshman point guard, who Kylie Lamson's enough of a matchup nightmare for other teams. But this young lady stepped in this year. She takes the floor as a freshman. She makes an immediate impact. You can see she's going to be special. She's not phased at all about getting into the lane, going up against taller players, drawing contact, whatever. She can finish. She can shoot from the outside too. So a huge addition for them. But Sanford. They've been a very competitive program here in recent years, and they've got some good young talent, and I think they're going to be in the mix all the way. You got a Wyndham team that's off to a very good start. Their only loss was a 3-point loss to Sanford, right?
Wow.
Gorham again, 3-0. They've kind of quietly put together another good season, even though no one was really talking about them going into the year. This is a team that's either in the regional final or the state final every season, it seemed like, back when there was a Class AA South. So you can never overlook them. And you've got some other teams like Westbrook, Deering that are off to a promising start. So Biddeford, we obviously can't forget about them.
I know, right?
The defending Class B champs, and they were this close to being that. And then Thornton Academy, they don't have a win yet, but they've been very close in every single game. They took Biddeford to overtime. They're going to break through at some point and be a real problem. So, that right there is what, 6, 7, 8 teams? That's almost a whole regional tournament field, which suggests we're going to have some great games in the regular season, and a lot of these playoff matchups, even like a 1-8, 2-7 type game, is going to be can't miss, and it's all going to be over at the Expo, and it's going to be a fabulous environment. And can't wait for February, but I'm looking forward to the regular season too.
Yeah, and it goes back to kind of your point right from the jump in this conversation on the pod, which is like, hey, this new Class A, no Double A, has brought a lot of excitement, not just for fans, but also for players to really be able to push themselves, coaches be able to test themselves. You and I talk a lot about it on the program, the Middays with Mannix and Mannix show on Fridays during the fall, about SMAA soccer and how it always brings the best, and you always are never in doubt when the team that comes out, they're the best team. And it feels like this year, especially girls or boys, there's really going to be no doubt in the South on who the best team is, because if you can run this gauntlet, you're going to be very well respected and going to be a tough out for anybody coming from the North, even though the North, I haven't really paid too much attention to it, Michael. I know both of us are down here in the South, but there are some good teams up there. I know maybe I'm a little biased here on the starting five being a South guy, but it does feel like with this class down here in Class A, boys or girls, I don't know who would be the underdog against the North team, because again, whether it's Cheverus, whether it's South Portland, any of these teams, anybody I think from the South 1 through 6, as you mentioned, and Biddeford too, who I feel like Biddeford's like, I don't even want to call them a dark horse in this because they were in a state final last year, but they almost feel like a dark horse in this Class A with the girls at least.
Right, because they haven't been in the big class here for a long time. And I think we're going to get to the end of the season. You're going to have a team that's like 10-8, 11-7 that might make a run to a regional final. Might be a surprise, quote unquote, to some people. But you talk to coaches, and it's kind of a double-edged sword for them. They love having these great games, but at the same time, they don't get many easy nights either. So, your team's got to be up game after game. You really can't overlook anyone. I mean, there are very few teams, boys or girls, that you can look at and say, all right, that's a game we should win.
Absolutely.
So again, I mean, it's great for the athletes. You have to be on your game every single night. It's great for the fans because you're seeing these terrific matchups. And it's great for media people too, because for the same reason, it's more fun to cover these compelling matchups and these compelling stories. And we're just getting started here. I mean,
we are.
There's a long way to go, and there's already been a lot of drama and intrigue, and it's only going to get better.
I know. I can't wait. And before we get into the boys, we'll talk a little bit. I know you covered Freeport most recently. Again, Hoffer's High School Sports is the place to go. Subscribe. Follow, do it. It's worth every penny. I know I'm excited. I read all of it. I love your newsletter too.
I appreciate that.
What was your read on Freeport, and how do you feel about some of those smaller classes? Who are some teams in B and maybe even in C that you got your eye on? Because I know you do cover NYA and Wayne Fleet as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in B South, Gray New Gloucester really looks like a terrific team. I saw them in their opener. They really took care of Freeport with no trouble. That's a team that's been consistently among the best. They couldn't solve Mount Ararat last year, but Mount Ararat's in Class A now. So I really feel like, that gives Gray New Gloucester an advantage. Oceanside, right? I mean, we talk about Oceanside constantly, how good they are. They'll certainly be heard from this season. Greeley's a team I'm interested in. I'm actually going to see them later today. They play Yarmouth. They've got some they had a 1-point loss to Brunswick in the opener, but they've won their other games. And, this is a program that not too long ago was winning state title and going undefeated behind Anna DeWolf and, Brooke Obar and Camille Clement and company. And, this group isn't at that level, but they've got a lot of great three-sport athletes on this team, and they're going to be tenacious. They're going to get up and down the floor. I think the last couple of years they haven't been at that Greeley standard, quote unquote. I think you're going to see them, being a team that's really dangerous come tournament time. A team that no one's going to want to play come tournament time. So definitely in B South, I think you start with Gray and you start with Oceanside, and we'll see some other contenders emerge. Maybe not as deep as broad a class as Class A South, but there are some very good teams there.
Yeah, and I think to bring up Oceanside, obviously the younger Breen sister has made her appearance there. There was a preseason tournament too, talking to Coach Skarka. And knowing Coach Breen pretty well. Skarka, though, told me that they were, at one point, leading pretty big against Cheverus in a preseason. They did end up losing, but they're competing with the Class A teams, too, which I think, to your point, shows you just how competitive Class B is. Like, teams like Gray New Gloucester and Oceanside can compete with the top of Class A. It's really the top of both B and A, I think, on the girls' side is not really that much different. I think, for instance, if Oceanside had to play Cheverus in a state final or something like that, I don't think we'd bat an eyelash at that and say that, Cheverus is the ultimate favorite, because I do think Oceanside's developed that kind of rep. Gray New Gloucester has developed that kind of rep, and even Mount Ararat, as you point out, who has jumped up a class, but there's a ton of competition. Women's side, it's always been that way, though, which is the beautiful thing about the state of Maine. We call it kind of the hidden gem up here. in New England and in Maine for women's basketball, but it's not really a hidden gem anymore, especially when you have Mackenzie Holmes dominating the way she is in like the Australian League and heading back to the Seattle, what are they, Seattle Sound?
Sounds right.
Sound right? I know, I can't
don't
keep
quote
up.
me on that.
I know, I can't
But I know
up.
she's playing at a high level, and it's awesome.
Amazing,
And even right now, we look at some of the players. I mentioned Kylie Lamson and Kristen King. You got Annie Whitmore at South Portland. Destiny Peters, a terrific post player for them.
She was great in the state final, too, last year.
Biddeford's got so many young, talented players that
Silva sisters.
The Silva sisters are terrific. And, Sanford, too. It's just there's an abundance of talent right now, which is great to see. Wyndham's got Mackenzie Deluski and Marley Jarvis, who's the soccer standout. Gorham, they don't have the big name right now, but they've got a lot of really good players, and they're so well coached. So you keep coming back to the fact that you can't overlook anyone. If you do, you're going to lose.
Yeah, I agree. You can't take anyone lightly, which is why I think everybody welcomed this back into the format of just a Class A. Let's go to the boys' side now. Obviously, we had a lot of excitement, and I mean, there's no better place to start. We talked a little bit about it last week, but I'd love your reaction too on that opening night game. Freshmen, we talked a little bit about the freshmen on the girls' side too. Freshmen on the boys' side seemingly to be the storyline, whether it's Kaylin Watkins, whether it's the South Portland side, Lionel Despacho. There is a ton of freshmen, along with the mix of seniors and juniors that are going to make this boys' side really exciting.
Right, and even like putting together my polls every week. It's like, how do you rank these teams at this point? Because they've all kind of beaten each other. South Portland could very easily be 0-2 right now. They're 2-0 as we record. Come from behind win over Cheverus, down 11 points with 2.5 minutes left. Incredible comeback. Darius Johnson with a putback at the horn, and then Johnson was the hero against Portland last Friday night, 27-14. Man among boys, and that game came down to a very, Portland had a look at the tie at the end of the game, couldn't hit the shot. But they're going to be there all season. Wyndham, the defending champs, they already have an early loss to Sanford. They've got a big game coming up here at home against a Westbrook team. How much have we talked about Westbrook the last couple months with that incredible football story? A lot of those guys are playing hoops, including Giovanni Staples, the quarterback, who's kind of the quarterback of the basketball team too, and a lot of fun to watch. So, I mean, they're right there. Scarborough, no one really talks about them, but with Adam Fitzgerald and Carter Blanche draining threes, they can play with anybody. They're off to an undefeated start. TA is going to be right in the mix. As we record this on, Tuesday the 16th, tonight, you got Scarborough TA. You got Westbrook Wyndham. You've got South Portland Bonnie Eagle that actually got moved to tomorrow. I mean, it's just amazing. This is kind of what we have night after night after night. And, we haven't even talked about Cheverus, who's going to be good. I mean, they've got some tough losses early on.
They lost to Scarborough,
They
correct?
did.
That's a big win that's why you pointed out Scarborough.
And
That's
Sanford.
A huge,
and a Sanford team that now has wins over Wyndham and Cheverus. So they're there.
Yeah. Dylan Gendron, I've heard, is
Gendron
cool.
is good.
Is that Gendron? Excuse me.
Yeah.
He is, I mean, I know he's a senior, but I've been seeing him. He's getting over 20 points a game right now.
And it's always nice to see programs that aren't always in the mix all of a sudden there.
Yes.
We know what we're going to get from Portland and South Portland and Cheverus and teams like that. And, even Falmouth, I mean, they're struggling. They have 8 points back total from last year's championship team. And I don't care how good a coach you have, and they have one of the very best, if not the best, in Dave Halligan. It's going to take time to be competitive. And, they took their lumps early, but I think come tournament time, no one's going to want to play them. No. So, again, like on the girls' side, pretty much anyone, 1 through 8, maybe even 1 through 11, is going to give pause to whoever you have to play as a higher seed, because you're like, this is not the easy first round game it was supposed to be. That doesn't exist this year.
No, it doesn't. I love how you mentioned the Falmouth, what they lost. Davis Mann, who gave one of the best playoff performances we've ever seen,
Absolutely.
one of the best state final performances. Shout out to him. I'm going to be highlighting him on next week's episode a little bit, because he has been tearing it up, Michael, in the GNAC. He's won 3 Rookie of the Week honors in a row for the GNAC. Yeah. The kid is absolutely tearing it up. So, again, I love the college stuff. Tune in next week. I will be highlighting him, but he's been a great story in the college level. But you're right to point out that losing him left a not just small hole, a gaping hole in Falmouth. For anybody who had the pleasure of watching him at the Expo, you knew how much he meant to that team, so you knew it was going to be a struggle to overcome.
Right, and it wasn't just him. I mean, Billy Burks was a big point scorer, too. Jackson Cameron, a terrific point guard. They had some other glue guys that weren't necessarily great basketball players, but seemed like they would hit the big shot when it mattered, or get the key rebound, or, just things you have to do to win a championship. And you can't, and Falmouth always has great athletes in the pipeline, but you can't just step right in and replace guys like that. And I think we've kind of seen that in the early going. But I would warn you and warn these other teams, don't overlook Falmouth. I think, come February, they're very capable of springing an upset.
Yeah, they're very well coached, as you mentioned, a little bit like those Portlands. And obviously, Portland's an interesting one, too, because guys like Lucas Legage, who right now early on in the season averaging 21 points a game, he's going to help propel them to wins. But you mentioned South Portland kind of nipped them a little bit. Either way, it does feel like we're seeing already the parity throughout this and the different kind of talent we have. I mean, we're not even talking about Edward Little with a Cole Maywin up there, who's now in Ding Maywin's family, kind of taken over the role. He's been dominant. So there's a ton of talent in this, and there's no shortage of kids, whether it's a freshman, seniors, juniors, that are going to be able to step up throughout this season. I'm also interested a little bit in your kind of like, who is there even, I mean, obviously there's Dark Horse, we mentioned Falmouth, but of the top teams, I know there's a lot of talk on the Chevresses and the South Portlands, but could we see a team like Sanford? Because one thing I think we forget to mention with Sanford, John Morgan, who was the former head coach of the Noble Knights that had, I mean, their best seasons in their last few recent memory with Jameer Rose and company. He's now down there. Do you think that this Sanford team really, I mean, it feels like we talk about coaching. Having John Morgan along with a Gendron, this could be the year maybe a team we don't see, as you mentioned, the dark horse comes to the forefront. And, I mean, imagine what kind of conversations we'll be having if we see John Morgan take a Noble program and now a Sanford program to some of these heights. I think we'll start talking about him as one of the better coaches, too, in the state of Maine.
Yeah, no question about it. And, I mean, he's certainly made a splash early. Like I said, you got that early win, certainly over Wyndham that turned a lot of heads. I think that was even at Wyndham. And, and then to turn around and beat Chevres as well. So, no question. He's capable of leading a team a long way, especially a program that, doesn't necessarily have the pedigree of some of the others in the Portland area. And they're probably playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. And that's going to, motivate them and carry them a long way. And I would say keep a real eye on Scarborough. I mean, this is a team. They are streaky they can knock down a ton of threes, but that doesn't necessarily work night after night. Right. And it doesn't necessarily translate to the big floor. So, they're going to have other elements to their game. But, Phil Conley always has that team playing hard. They'll play solid defense. And if they are knocking down shots, I mean, they could go on a run. I would not be surprised to see them make a deep run.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. And that's the thing that makes these teams so exciting, too. A lot of new faces, new places. And we'll see just exactly how all these teams decide to play out throughout the season. A lot of action to get to. I know you're busy tonight. This episode's actually going to be out today. It'll be out before 5. So people who can listen to it before their games tonight. I mean, obviously tonight, where are you going to be, Michael? But also, where are you going to be this week? What are some games that you want fans to look for? And what are you going to be covering? What can people look for as well on Hoffer's High School Sports?
Yeah, I'll be all over the place here the next few days. There's an early start at Greeley tonight, so I'll do the Yarmouth-Greeley girls game. Looking forward to seeing those teams for the first time. And then you got the Wyndham-Westbrook showdown, the boys game tonight at 7. We're going to find out a lot about Westbrook, right? I mean, Wyndham's a proven commodity, what they've done here the last several seasons. We know how special they are. They still have Tyree James and A.J. Moody, and I don't think an early season loss is going to faze them whatsoever. And you got Westbrook. I mean, it was such a weird season for them last year. They were 3-15, but 9 of their 15 losses were by 5 points or less, which suggests they were, a much more competitive team than their record showed. So you knew they were going to be better. They bring in Jim Seavey as coach, who's had a ton of success on the girls' side, winning gold balls at Greeley and Scarborough. And then you've got, the magic stardust in the air over there, and it's not from the mill. It's whatever's going on right now after football. And like I said, you got those football guys, they believe they can make history in basketball too. So that's going to be a fun matchup. Friday, I'm looking forward. I'll be doing the South Portland Biddeford girls game, a game that probably wouldn't have even happened before this year. They would have been, not in the same class. It's highly unlikely they would have matched up. Now it's a possible playoff preview. It's almost a battle of undefeated champions, right? I mean, we're a point away from that being the case. Yeah. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, there's a lot of big games around the holidays too. Some good holiday action over at the Expo, including a lot of regular season games. You're going to get the second South Portland game on the 27th over in the holiday tournament, and that's a countable game. And there's actually several others going on there. So, I think by the new year, which is only 2 weeks away, I think we're going to get a better idea of where a lot of these teams stand. But I think a lot of these themes are going to continue where, there's multiple teams in the mix. We'll be kind of looking at some teams as potential spoilers. And, maybe by the time we get to that point, they're not even that much of a spoiler anymore. But right. I think, we're going to be talking about, we have this conversation a month from now. I think we'll be talking about a lot of the same things.
Yeah, for sure. And again, another shout out to a couple of the other games games taking place this week. Fort Kent and Presque Isle up in the county. Give a shout out to them. They're playing Wednesday night. MDI will take on Brewer as well this Friday. Camden Hills and Coney. Nice little matchup in the Central. And then one that's close to our heart down here, Michael, as well. Great New Gloucester and Yarmouth, as you mentioned, going at it. So a lot of great matchups here as well to follow throughout the week. I'll ask you, kind of leave you on this note. And again, appreciate you so much for coming in, man,
Always
and talking some hoops with us here on the Starting Five podcast. What about the holiday tournament do you like most? I missed the days where we played for something, because I was part of the era back between 2007 and 11 in high school when in Portland we were playing for a trophy there. But I mean, if we could get back to that, I think that'd be great. I don't know if we ever will, but I think the holiday tournament in Portland, despite not having the spice it used to have, is still, I think, probably one of the better tournaments you can get to. I remember we've had some really good games against out-of-state teams.
It was magical.
Some of the more entertaining games in this holiday tournament. What's some of your best memories from the Expos holiday tournament here in Portland?
I remember when they used to have the dunk contest, right?
Oh my God,
and the 3-point shooting contest.
Yeah.
That was just fun.
I forgot about that.
Everyone got involved with that, right? For selfish reasons, it was great for me. I could go see teams I hadn't seen yet. You can spend all day there and see teams you hadn't seen all season and kind of get a scouting report on them. And I wish there was a way to do like an NBA Cup kind of thing,
That'd be cool.
Where somehow these games even count as countable games, because you can only do the 5 non-countable dates, right?
Sure.
And that's what's really, kneecapped this whole tournament, unfortunately, over the last 10, 15 years. It's just not what it used to be. But if there was a way to, really have these games mean something and to have, some kind of legitimate prize to play for, it would pack the place.
I think it would too now, especially nowadays.
Awesome.
I mean, there's always been a buzz, but now obviously with Cooper Flagg dropping 42 points and passing LeBron James at the NBA level, a lot of eyes and excitement are on basketball. I see it at the Portland Expo. I do stats. I'm a statistician for the Maine Celtics. At every home game, we sell out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. The love for basketball in this state is there, and I'm with you. If you build it, they will come, right? And I think if you were able to give a little bit more flavor to that tournament again, you'd be selling out the Expo. Maybe not selling out, but at least in the Portland area, people would go just out of interest to see, how this tournament's playing out. I bet you'd get more interest, Michael, than the NBA Cup.
I think so. I think it'd be
bigger.
It'd be more fun to watch from my perspective.
Me too.
But you think about where else you want to be this time of year is inside watching basketball.
Yeah.
It's great to have an opportunity to watch multiple games at the same venue on the same day. So and this it's still fun because it's early in the season. I mean, things are still just ramping up. When we come back to the Expo in February, it's a whole different story.
That's right.
Things are much more intense. It's still a lot of fun, and certainly from a fan or media perspective, but it's a different vibe than what you get at Christmas time.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, enjoy your holidays, because I know we won't talk again on this podcast. We'll probably catch up as we head into playoff time to get some predictions down. You and I will have some fun with that. But other than that, Michael, thanks so much again. Hoffer's High School Sports. Get on that. Follow him on Instagram, X, wherever the heck you want to get your Michael Hoffer ingest in his media. But again, Hoffer's High School Sports is the place to go. Any other shameless plugs you want to get out there, my man?
No,
feel free, bro. Let us know where we can find you.
That should do it. Let me add, I do have weekly podcasts.
Yep,
I've had everyone from the legendary Bob Brown to current coaches, athletic
Amy
directors.
Ashley, too, who's close to my heart, too, at Chevrolet. And I definitely 10 out of 10 recommend that. I listened to the Amy one. I even texted her. That was as someone who works under her, right, it's fun to kind of get that perspective. You do a great job with those.
Yeah, and I got a chance to do one with Addison DeRoche, the Chevrolet softball pitcher, after she made her college commitment. So, that's something that's kind of new that I hadn't really been doing in the past. And just, weekly polls. We've got athletes of the week and a ton of game stories, which, of course, is my bread and butter. So, please check me out, Hoffer's High School Sports. And it beats working for a living. I'll say that.
Amen to that, brother. Michael Hoffer, I'm Taylor Mannix. That's the Starting Five podcast presented by Town and Country Federal Credit Union and the Big Time Hoops Instagram page at Big Time Hoops Maine to get any of your basketball fixing. They also have Big Time Hoops Portland as well, where you can get a lot more of the information that I'm talking about on this podcast. Again, that's Big Time Portland. If you want to follow the county, it's Big Time the county. And if you want to get in on the mid-coast, it's the mid-coast, the Big Time mid-coast. So we got you guys covered on all angles. I'm your South voice. And, until next time, guys, thanks again to Michael Hoffer. And stay tuned as we have episode 3 coming next week. Davis Man, more college updates, and a special guest. I won't reveal who it is yet, but I promise you guys won't want to miss it. I'm Taylor Mannix. Till next time, stay tuned.